Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sideline Shenanigans. My name is Brian Jones. I have Coach Darrin Fisher of Whiteland High School in Whiteland, Indiana. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for spotlighting our kids in our program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to learn so much about. I like the reason I started this show was to learn about more programs other than my own. I'm from a small town in Attica. I don't know if you know where that's at.
I do. I do. I used to know your superintendent. Mr. John Acton was there the past couple of years as the superintendent. So
Oh, okay, okay.
John and I
I
started coaching together. We were the first year and second year coaches at Avon High School way back in the late 80s.
I actually graduated before
Yep.
he came. So, what's your core coaching philosophy?
I guess if you look at it in a nutshell, we are simplicity equals velocity. We are going to try to keep it simple to our kids, multiple in formations and alignments and looks and keys and reads, but simple enough that we play fast. So that is, I guess, from a core philosophy standpoint as a coach, I think you've got to capture the hearts and minds of your kids. That's my number one job, is to make sure that they are all in with both feet all the time. And that's kind of my responsibility.
All right, all right. I like that. I like that. Um, who was when you first started coaching? What sparked it? Was there a person or a moment that really did?
I was so fortunate back when I was in school, way back when, before dirt was invented in the 1980s. I was blessed. Denny Pelly's a Hall of Famer. Coach Pelly was my head coach at Mooresville High School, where I went to school way back when. Phil Gatz and Steve Hilligoss were assistants that meant an awful lot to me. And watching them do their job and the effect that they had on me and my friends, I knew that was something that I wanted to get into. So I was fortunate. I was a cadet teacher way back in high school. I knew I wanted to teach school and coach, and that was way back when. I knew that when I went to college, I knew what I wanted to do. So I've been fortunate.
Okay. How do you adjust your defense when facing a dual threat quarterback?
Well, I think number one, you've got, like we talked about before, you've kind of got to be multiple in the looks that you provide. You can't line up in the same, the coaching in Indiana is so good at this point that, anytime you line up in the same thing and give somebody the same look, they're going to figure it out. So number one, I think, is be multiple. Number two, though, I think, like we talked about before, simplicity equals velocity. So I think if you keep things simple, you provide different looks, but the rules and the concepts are the same. I think that gives people trouble. Number two, when you want to get down into the brass tacks, I think you've got to let that dual threat quarterback not be a dual threat. You've got to take something away. Either you want him to throw or you want him to run. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but you want to make somebody play left-handed. So I guess in a nutshell, you want to take away, you want to provide multiple looks, and by doing that, you're trying to take away the part of their game that they do the best. If they do both equally well, you just got to choose one and take one away.
Okay, Coach, what's the biggest challenge facing high school coaches at this moment?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think I'm not sure that kids have changed much. I think the expectation from home has changed a lot. So I think the biggest challenge to coaching right now is making sure that, it used to be, and we still emphasize that here, it's all about team. It's we before me. It's us before, my duties and responsibilities to my team before my rights and privileges as an individual. That's when our teams have been the best. Our teams here have been the best when we've had a bunch of guys that are extremely unselfish, extremely close as a group, and they're willing to do the work. Culture sometimes is how your behavior affects other people's experience for being here today. So I think getting them to understand that we before me culture usually results in more wins. And I think that's what's become, and I think everybody wants that. I think our young men want that. I think sometimes there's some pressure from outside circumstances that, hey, what's in it for you instead of what's in it for us.
Okay. How do you handle sudden weather changes affecting your game plan? Like, for example, if it's raining and you like to throw the ball, don't you?
We are a run the football team. I think to
Really?
win games, I think to win anybody that you ask that would talk to you about us offensively, we're gonna run the football to move the chains, and we're gonna throw the football to score.
So,
Not the other way around. So I think we've won a lot of games in October because we've been good at stopping the run and running the football. Those two things. So to me, you ask how we adjust in those rain games. Our offense is built to play later on in the season, in the cold, in the wet, in the snow, in whatever it is. That's kind of how we're built.
so is it like an option, single wing,
We run what's called the
wishbone?
fly. We run the fly offense. So it is the fly offense is basically based. Think about the triple option in reverse order. Everything starts with
Okay.
a fly sweep. We're going to beat you with the sweep or beat you with the sweep offensively and run the ball on the perimeter. And then defensively, if you don't adjust to take away the perimeter, we're going to keep running the ball out there. When you do adjust, you're giving us something else between the tackles. So, and then obviously when you walk your secondary up, we have to be balanced. To us is 33% run, 33% pass, and 33% perimeter sweep. So to me, good balance is I've got to be able to take what you give me when you take away our sweep. So our entire offense is really based around the ability to run the fly sweep.
Okay. Do you believe in a tempo-based offense?
Um, I believe in changing the tempos. I think one of the things that makes it difficult on a defense is your ability to adjust. Do I want to go hyper fast? Do I want to go kind of fast? Do I want to sugar huddle? Or do we want to huddle? We are a huddle based team here for the most part. Because I think there's two ways to cause confusion on a defense. I think number one is tempo, but I think tempo makes you weak in the fact that you've got to line up in the same formation. Sometimes you're going to have a lot of missed assignments because you're trying to go fast. And I think the other way to affect the defense is shifts, motions, and trades. We are a shift, motion, and trade operation. What we present to you, kind of like what you asked me on the very first question, what we present to you when we come out of the huddle is not going to be the presentation that it looks like when the ball is snapped. So in that 10 to 15 seconds between us breaking the huddle and lining up at the line of scrimmage, we're going to change the run strength on you. We're going to change the pass strength on you, or we're going to snap the football on a quick count and do whatever. So we're going to try to keep you as off balance as we can in all three phases. So offensively, do I believe in tempo? Yes. Is tempo what we choose to cause confusion on the defense? No, we choose shifting, motion, and trades.
Okay. Do you use a check with me system from the sideline?
No, not from the sideline. We put a lot of that into the hands of our offensive linemen or the hands of our quarterback. So our check with me system is usually handled by the quarterback or the offensive lineman. So a lot of times we'll have a play call. There'll be some, we have a few different ways to block that run play. We have a few different choices, whether it's a run pass pre-snap option. We don't run the run pass post-snap options, but there are run options and run pass options built in to our system based on how they align or how they move or how they react to our motion of our sweep. That'll give us the play that we're going to run. 2 plays in 1 is a lot of the things that we try to do offensively.
Okay, a lot of RPOs. I like that. I like using those in Madden.
Well, ours are not post snap options though. Ours are mostly our check with me system is a pre snap option. We have a couple of what you would call RPOs that are after the snap. So we've got a couple of those.
So I don't know if Whiteland has a bunch of two-way players. What's your theory on them?
I've changed over time. I used to believe that totally 2 platoon was the way to go. That you had guys that played offense and guys that played defense, and you would be the guy that is 100% fresh would be better than your superior athlete who is 80% because he's playing a lot of time. Over time, I think I've kind of gone the other direction since 2021, we kind of went back to all of our guys learning both sides of the football and trying to start as many guys as we could, but we had to play a lot of people. And I think having our best athletes on the field has really so I think we're a mix between the two, if I could say that.
How do you break tendencies without confusing your team?
I think I'm a person that I think tendencies are a plus. I think you want to create as many tendencies as you can offensively, and then that gives you an opportunity to break them, whether it gives you a chance to break them in this week's ball game in the second half, whether it gives you a chance to break those tendencies next week, no matter what that is. I think that there is I don't think tendencies are all bad. And again, how do we break tendencies? I think, again, we talked about those shifts, formations, and trades. I think sometimes you can create tendencies with those alone, and then you change which play matches with which snap count, which motion, which shift, which trade. I think you can do that. So for us, again, simplicity equals velocity. I'll say it again. I think you've got to create those tendencies in different ways, other than like adding new plays is very expensive. It costs a lot to add a new play to your game plan during the season, but it doesn't cost a whole lot to add a new formation or a new snap count or a new shift.
Okay. How do you keep your offense balanced when one element isn't working? Like, for example, if your run wasn't working at all throughout the game, how would you manage that?
That, again, that has been, there are a few occasions that has been a problem. But remember, we kind of view ourselves as a three-pronged attack offensively. So when you say run the football, there's going to be run the ball on the perimeter, there's going to be run the ball between the tackles, and there's going to be throw the football. So to us, it's a three-pronged attack. So if you do a good job of taking one of those away, then obviously you're going to give us something else. Now, have there been times over the past 35 years that you've played someone that is just better than you are in all 11 positions? Yes, that happens, where they can play base defense and take everything away, and that's going to be a long night. You kind of tip your cap and say, go on. But for the most part with us, most of our opponents have to make a choice. What are they going to take away? And then hopefully the years we've been really good is we've been able to attack well in all three phases. But you are correct. When there is a time that you're not as good at one of those three phases, obviously a superior opponent can take, one of those things away and leave you with one because you're not very good at the third one. So that is a problem. And how do we handle that? I think we just try as much as we can. It's all about complementary football. It's about the three phases staying close together. So on nights like that, you better be pretty good in the kicking game. You better try to create some big plays in the kicking game, so that you can have those explosive plays that you need to win the game. Picture the way the University of Iowa plays football. I know it's not very pretty, but that's the way we play it here. You know what I mean? There are times that you win the game. You win the game by drives ending in kicks. Sometimes they end in field goals. Sometimes they end in punts. And punting is okay. Punting and playing defense is okay.
I said this last episode. Punters are people too.
You'll be surprised. A kicker that can kick the ball in the end zone and make it 1st and 80, from the 20-yard line. A punter that is effective on flipping the field. There's not over time. Again, from doing this for a long time, I think what I've realized is, boy, when you're good in the kicking game, you're going to win a lot of football games. Last year we were an average football team to our standards because we just weren't very good at kicking and punting the football. And that has been a point of emphasis for us this year to return to where we want to be.
How do you game plan when you're missing key starters?
I believe, like I said, we are a system. Our offense runs from second grade on up. Everybody runs the fly offense here. Defensively, everybody runs the odd front. What we do is who we are from second grade on up. So to us, we're going to have the ability to plug in. And you asked me that 2 platoon versus everybody playing both ways, we had the ability to plug in a player, A, because he played there when he was younger, and B, because we've been able to practice. One of the reasons we got away from guys only playing on one side of the football is we had lost some ball games way back in the, 2009 range, 2000. We lost some games in 2009 because we had all of our tailbacks get hurt. We didn't have anybody else, and we want. I vowed to never let that happen again. So luckily we've gone. But again, you asked, what do you do when you're missing a really good player? I think you have to count on. It's not. Again, when you're a run the football team like we are, you've got to count on those guys up front to get things done. So maybe the plays aren't explosive, but again, 4 yards to us is a really good football play. And we've got somebody here that can plug in and execute our system that we can get 4 yards. 4 yards of play can't lose. We've got somebody here that can get that done.
My coach always said that 4 yards is all we need. 4 yards each play.
4 yards to play, cannot lose.
How do you build weekly install without overwhelming players?
I think, again, some things that we believe in are our system. So what happens is our weekly install, we're not changing things on a weekly basis. Like I said, will we add a shift or a motion or a trade or something to take advantage of alignment or basically to exploit some defensive rules that we find? But those are all built in. Again, I think one of the things that I've learned over time is, adding things during the season. Anytime it gets difficult, you shouldn't add things. You should take things out. The more you simplify, simplicity equals velocity. I know I've said that now 4 times. But again, if you simplify, you play faster. And when you play faster, you normally win. So I think there's a tendency there to add things and have an install. But I think you go through your install in the preseason, you go through your install in the summer, you go through your install, and those things, and you keep teaching the same fundamentals, the same things that go with, and then the players eventually are able to adjust. And I think when you add, again, I'm not saying we've never done it, but boy, it's a lot better when you just keep repping the same things fundamentally and get better at what you do, not add something else. And then defensively, I guess your system has to be wide enough to incorporate how to defend everything. You know what I mean? Multiple defense is the key. You're not just, you start in this base, but can you adjust and do things with the same rules to provide that question you asked me at the beginning, provide that different look with the same rules. And I think that's the art of coaching, I guess, if you will. The art of coaching is being able to do all of those things that need to be done, but to be able to teach it in a manner that your players can play fast.
How do you manage practice reps for starters versus backups?
I do. Well, I'm going to give you 2 words here. Number 1 is coach next year's team too. One of the things that we do here is we just don't worry about this year's team. We worry about the program as a whole. So we are always going to double rep everything. There's always going to be an older guy reps going on and younger guy reps going on. And our coaches are going to flip back and forth and coach those as well. I coach the offensive linemen here. I've got the older offensive linemen for just as much of the practice. I've got the younger guys for just as much of the practice because we're worried about being a program. JV games and freshman games are really important here at Whiteland High School. We put a lot of time, the same walkthrough, the same pregame meal, the same film study, the same everything, because you got to teach them when they're younger how they're going to do it when they're older. So again, how do we handle that? We kind of make those things the same. We've won a lot of JV football games and freshman football games here over the past 21 years. And I believe that that's what gives kids the confidence to come back and play next year and come back and execute next year. So we try to build a program, not necessarily have a good team every once in a while.
How do you teach players to block out crowd noises?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the things that we try to do is we over communicate. To me, communication is the difference between an average team and a really good team. You can be talented, but if you allow other people to be off script, if you allow them to make silly mistakes, like a silly mistake by the guy that's lined up next to you is just as much your fault as it is theirs, because your job is to know, we're going through that process right now with our preseason install videos of the fact that, hey, watch this video and tell me not only what your position is doing right or wrong, but tell me what the guy next to you is doing right or wrong. It's a team build. It's we before me. It's not just about me doing my job. It's about all of us understanding my job. And if I'm the guy that has to communicate that to somebody else, I've got to get that done. So for us, handling that crowd noise comes from communication. You're locked in when you're playing together with your teammates. You can't get distracted. Watch a volleyball match. After every point, they get together and talk to each other. Watch a free throw in the NBA. Guy shoots a free throw. You can tell the really good teams because those dudes are at him on the line. Hey, great job. Hit another one. Here's what we're going to do if you miss this. Or, hey, get on there and get I think communication is the eliminator of distractions and crowd noise. I think what happens is when you get into your own head, that's when those things can be a distraction. If you're, again, we before me, if we're all in and we all communicate, distraction really isn't a problem.
Who's on your headsets during games, and what do they handle?
Well, our defensive staff obviously is going to have 3 guys on the headsets. We've got one that's looking at the route combinations. There's one that's looking at, the backfield actions, and there's one that's looking at how the line of scrimmage is playing. And then our defensive coordinator, obviously, he's looking at the tendencies and how those things are going to flow. So those are his 3. Offensively, for me, I've got the same. We've got somebody watching the secondary rotation. How are they trying to take away our sweep, and what are they giving us? We've got one of our coaches is watching how the edge people play. There's kind of 2 techniques on the edge to attack our defense, and which one are they using? And then we've got one watching the defensive line, how the end man how are the guys on the line of scrimmage handling down blocks? How do they react to a down block? And my job is to watch the linebackers to make sure what their flow is when we attack, either wide to the field side or off tackle to the field side. What does the boundary side linebacker do? So those are how we kind of arrange that. Every coach, again, we always tell our coaches, don't watch the game, coach the game. So we've got our guys assign specific things that they do during the football game.
Okay, Coach, we're going to get into some shenanigans here.
I hope I can handle this.
All right. What's your favorite play of all time to call?
My favorite play of all time, fly sweep. We are I'm telling you, our entire offense is based on that play. And, we use the terminology, we're going to beat you with the sweep, or we're going to beat you with the sweep. So either we're going to beat you because you can't stop it, or we're going to beat you because you gave us something to stop it. So, you ask all of our opponents that have played against us for years and years and years, they know it's coming. So I would say a well-executed perimeter sweep is my favorite play to call.
What's your biggest pet peeve as a coach?
Boy, you're hitting me there with I got a few of them. Yeah, I guess I'm going to give you one for myself. Just coach the darn team. Like, don't get caught up in what's going on in the office. Don't get caught up with who said what about who. And, a lot of times as coaches, you can get caught up in what other people think, I guess. So a pet peeve of mine for myself, there are times I have to tell myself, just coach the team. Your job is to capture the hearts and minds of your players. Just coach the team. Again, simplifying. When it gets difficult for me, instead of looking for other answers, simplifying is the way to go.
Okay. Do you have a favorite sports movie quote?
Do I have a favorite sports movie quote? Yeah, I think I do. I think it would come from Rocky 2, and I think it would be, you're a greasy, fast Italian tank, run through him, run over him. That's kind of summarizes my philosophy of of football. I love the Rocky series, and I guess that would be my favorite quote from Mickey. What he said to Rocky to get him to go hard.
Okay. What coach, past or present, would you love to have dinner with?
Oh boy, I love to study Vince Lombardi. I have Lombardi on Football, which is his 9 hours of his clinic tape, which is I watch every year because there's always something that you can learn from those fundamentals. Everything about the way that he coached the game. I always use the terminology of, during the season as a head coach, you kind of get in the tunnel. And you're just thinking about that next opponent. And they described Coach Lombardi that way, that there were, after a game, he would feel a little bit of relief. I guess my second one, I'd have to tell you, I got to give you two. Modern day would be Coach Saban. I've never heard anything come out of Coach Saban's mouth that did not make perfect, total sense to me. And I sure would love to have some time to talk to that gentleman too.
Okay. Do you have a favorite college football team?
I do. I already mentioned them. I am an Iowa Hawkeye fan. I'm also an Iowa State Cyclone fan. I would say both of those would be I spent 9 years coaching in Iowa. We lived in Iowa, and both of my kids were born in Iowa. And we were there. And like I said, I really became very attached. I spent an awful lot of time at Iowa State practices. I used to go to spring practice, almost all 15 of them every year. That's how I learned. I learned an awful lot of football going to spring practice at Iowa State. And then I was lucky enough that I had a friend on the coaching staff at the University of Iowa. And I used to go there an awful lot too. So when I interviewed for this job here at Whiteland, actually Coach Ferentz was a recommendation for me, provided a recommendation. And Dan McCarney, who used to be the head coach at Iowa State, did the same. So I owe those two gentlemen an awful lot, and their coaching staffs an awful lot for my career being as long and as it has been. Those are guys I really learned an awful lot of football from. So those are kind of my favorite college football teams.
Big Notre Dame fan right here.
I'm an Irish fan myself. That's, I guess, in fandom. Yeah, I would add that to my plate too.
So, have you ever seen the Miami documentary between it was Catholics versus convicts?
Absolutely. Yes,
Love it.
I have seen that.
Oh my goodness.
I have seen that. I am a Notre Dame fan. I love Lou Holtz. One of my first football clinic experiences was a spring practice at Notre Dame, where I was mesmerized by listening to Lou Holtz coach and watching him coach. So
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Lou Holtz.
Okay. I can definitely agree. He's one of the best coaches ever, actually.
Marcus Freeman's pretty darn good too. You can tell he's captured the hearts and minds of those kids. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite underdog story in football history?
Underdog story. You mean that I was involved in, or one that I have seen?
Either one.
I guess as an underdog ourselves, we always kind of view ourselves as the little engine that could sometimes. We've had some, back in 2011, 2011, we had lost the regular season game to somebody by about 4 scores. And then I think we won the tournament game by about 4 scores. It was quite a turnaround. I think as an underdog, I think sometimes the thing I love about underdogs, being the underdog, is obviously, I think it's harder to be the favorite than it is to be the underdog. You know what I mean? To be consistently good all the time is good. So I would say personally, that's probably the one that sticks out in my mind, where we personally had some success. We've beaten the number 1 team in the state a couple times. We did it in Iowa twice. We've done it here. We've done it here once. So I love the anatomy of an upset. I think you have to build that during the week. I think that's something that you take a lot of pride in when you know as a coach and you can make your players believe that you can get it done. And you spend that week spinning that story of how it's going to happen, and when it does, those are pretty special times.
Okay, do you have a favorite drill you like to run during practice?
A favorite drill. It's funny. You don't win games unless you block and tackle, and it's not sexy, but ball security too. Any drills that are ball security, those are my favorite drills. Blocking, tackling, and ball security is how you win football games. And a lot of people would like to tell you, it's scheme. I'm not sure it's always scheme. I think a lot of times it's fundamentals. You win games because of fundamentals.
Okay, okay. How does Coach Darrin Fisher relax after the season?
Oh man, I go through. It's very funny that you say that. I go through my wife. My wife and I have been married for 35 years. I go through a kind of a withdrawal period when the season is over with, where I spend a lot of time by myself and I take notes. I'll tell you the worst year, honestly, in 2022 when we lost the state championship game. That was we lost with 18 seconds left. Again, Valparaiso made a great play, and beat us with 18 seconds left. And that one was. But I sit and I spend a lot of time by myself, and I spend a lot of time watching college football games and pro football games, and I see things that, I'm one of those people that the losses hurt more than the wins are exciting. And I think that happens as you get older. Some other guys have told me that as you get older, that becomes the case, where the losses stick with you an awful lot longer than celebrating the wins. So I think I have to decompress a little bit. I have to not, but for me, the big thing is I take a lot of notes. I look, I reflect, and I take a lot of notes on, here's the things I think we did. I use start, stop, continue. Here's some things we should start doing. Here's some things we got to stop doing. And here's some things we should continue doing. So I get our cut-ups ready to watch. I do a lot of those things. That usually helps me set the table for January, when I kind of come out of my tunnel and I'm, a personable person to deal with again. So I'd like to say I could handle that more maturely, but I really have to spend some time by myself, process, take notes, figure out where I'm going. What's my direction starting in January? So that's what December allows me to do.
Okay. How do you evaluate and update your playbook each year?
I think there is a process of writing your playbook every year. We talked about that process of getting our cut-ups ready to watch just a minute ago. So I go through in January, and let's use an example. Let's say in January, every week I'm going to watch one play that we run. So we've mentioned the fly sweep. Let's say I watch all the fly sweeps to a certain edge, whether it's a tight end nub edge or a wide receiver edge, whatever. I watch all those plays in order from the worst play to the best play. So I don't watch the games as a linear in time. I watch all the cuts. So let's say we ran the fly sweep 108 times. I'm going to watch all 108 of those from the beginning, for the worst to the best. And as I watch those, I'm looking for techniques that we did not execute very well. So then I'm going to spend my time, we talked about going to practice and spring practice and those things. I'm going to spend my time finding someone who does what we didn't do well, who does it really well. And when I find that person, I'm going to go visit them. I'm going to call them. I'm going to watch their game film. I'm going to watch practice tape. I'm going to investigate, how do they do this better than we do? So again, what I learned over time, and then that process of I'm fortunate that people ask me to speak at football clinics. And I think writing a clinic talk helps you narrow things down, what's really important to me. And I think writing your playbook does the same thing. You don't want your playbook to get bigger. You want your playbook to get more precise. So I think when you write your playbook every year, you go through that exercise of finding people that do things well that you need to fix and change and update. And then you rewrite your playbook. I do it every year over spring break. I rewrite our playbook every year over spring break. That's what I do. And hopefully we become more precise in how we teach something we might add, but if you add something, I believe you have to take something away. How much can you practice? How much can you how many plays can you have that you really call in a game? I think that's really important to keep in mind. Something I've learned over time.
Okay. How do you manage expectations with players receiving D1 interest?
I love high expectations. I think when you have high expectations of yourself and high expectations of your teammates, I think that's when, again, there are years that you say, like we talked about Nick Saban earlier, be the team that nobody wants to play. When the end of the year, you want to be the team that nobody wants to play. That's your goal. Your goal is, man, when they see you come up on the tournament draw, they go, holy cow, I really don't want to play Whiteland because we're going to get hit. So I think that if you can phrase your question for me again so I can answer it correctly.
How do you how do you
Go
manage
ahead, just tell me what you said.
How do you manage
Expectations. Okay.
expectations with the
I got you.
player receiving
I think,
D1
yeah,
interest?
you mentioned like our college day comes up on Wednesday. So we're going to have about 55 schools here, 55 coaches here that are going to come in and watch our guys participate in their change of direction and their speed development, their plyometric drills. I think what you have to do to manage those expectations is that the better our team does, the more people are going to watch you play. The better when your team wins and your team executes, then a special player is going to stand out. You know what I mean? You're not a Division I football player because of what you did at a combine or because of what you did at a workout or because of what you did at summer camp. You're a Division I player because you made your team better, and your team wins because you make plays. So that's the way we approach that here. It's not, just because you run fast at a combine electronically, the teams you really want to play for are the ones that recruit really good football players. So I think we've always approached that here. I've been here 21 years. We've had, I think, 8 Division I scholarship football players. I have an awful lot of Division III players. We've had an awful lot of Division II players. We've had an awful lot of NAIA players that have had great careers, but we just have not been, again, we are a player development program, if that makes sense. I guess you manage expectations by your guys buy into they don't walk through the door running super fast and jumping really high. They do that by the time they're seniors because they bought into our player development program. And it's not that way everywhere. It's not that way. Again, you have to know your own clientele. I know what we have here at Whiteland. We have tough, physical, hardworking guys that have to put in an awful lot of work. And over 4 years span of time, we've got 35 seniors coming here in 2025. And our guys don't play till they're juniors or seniors. That's, we've developed a program where it is very difficult for a sophomore to get on the field on Friday. And we take a lot of pride in that we develop our players. We take a lot of pride in that.
That's wild for me to hear because I started getting really good playing time my freshman sophomore year. I started my junior and senior year, but playing time is important, especially for the younger guys. They just need to develop.
And that's when you and I talked about, you asked me about balancing the reps. That's why I coach next year's team too, and making those freshman and JV games is really, really important because that is the chance that they are getting their experience. Now, again, have we had sophomore start for us? Sure. Jordan Palmer is going to be a senior for us this year. He started in the state championship game at Mike Linebacker as a freshman. We have had guys walk through the door that were just gifted. But for the most part, we let classes develop together. And then they get to be juniors and seniors, and they're all out there playing together.
Absolutely. What's it like? Any high end D1 schools coming to your combine or?
It depends on the year. This year we'll have some Big Ten schools there. Mostly the Mid-American Conference schools will be there. We have some Ivy League schools. We have some Ivy League schools that are signed up to come because our guys are really good students. We mentioned our 35 seniors. We have a lot of those guys that are really good football players and really good students. So we'll have some of those. So I guess at the Division I level, that'll be who we'll have have beer. We got to include our local Division ones. Butler's going to be here, and Indiana State's going to be here, and our local Division ones will be here as well.
I'm actually Indiana State alumni.
There you go. Go Trees.
Yep. Roll trees. But and here's some advice for us, like people or kids in high school, middle school. Keep working. I regret not working my freshman and sophomore year. I regret it every day. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", 250. I could have played college ball, but I did not put the work in, and I completely regret it every day. Every day I regret it.
Yeah, but you're turning that love of football into something here. You're doing a nice job supporting Indiana high school football, and we all, as coaches, appreciate what you're doing. Especially, I do. I very much do.
Yeah, I started this idea with Sideline Shenanigans with my friends. They get busy. They work. I stay home and take care of my dad. So I just do this for fun when he's asleep.
That's awesome for you to take care of your dad too. I understand exactly what that is.
It's tough when you get older. Kids, keep working. Be the best you can be. Show your stuff, guys. It's really important.
Very good advice.
What do you emphasize in the highlight film creation?
Well, I think you want to make it about 2 minutes long or less. I think you want to show. I think each position has certain things you want to show. You know what I mean? As an offensive lineman, for example, you want to show yourself, running something where you're running out in space, whether you're pulling, whether you're leading a screen.
Mm-hmm.
You want to show yourself, running a wide zone.
Uh-oh.
Those kinds of things. Oop, you get it? You get me back?
Yeah, I got you back.
So I think by position, every position, but again, I think you want your highlight film to be about 2 minutes long. You want to show the best stuff that you've got, and you want to show multiple things that you're a multifaceted player.
How do you help your players stay realistic about recruiting?
I think you want. Well, I mean, I think it's like in this day of the transfer portal, opportunities are less for high school kids. But we don't. I love all my players. I think they're all Division I scholarship kids, and I'm going to promote them as much as I can. But the colleges are the ones that determine what level they're going to be. Mm-hmm. So for us, we're going to let them. We're going to shoot for the stars. We're going to send out all the film, and we're going to do, all the things. We've got a recruiting website that I think a lot of schools are doing right now, where all of our guys have, profiles for themselves that they can send an email, and it's got a college search tool on it. So, if you're interested, if your dream school is UCLA for interest, great. Fill out the questionnaire for UCLA, see if they answer you. So that gives parents some control. That gives the players some control. And, I don't want to be the gatekeeper of who do I think is capable of playing here and who is not. The college coaches are going to decide that. And,
absolutely.
And that's kind of how we handle it here.
How do you handle players who focus more on recruiting than the team?
We've been very fortunate that we don't do that. And I'll be honest, we don't put recruiting on the front burner. Recruiting for us is on the back burner. You know what I mean? We started off this conversation 45 minutes ago with we before me. And that's, you have to understand that being successful and winning games is going to get you a whole lot further than worrying about yourself and your recruiting stats or whatever it happens to be. Right. And the other thing that we talked about here is, we're a player development program. We don't have those people walking through the door as freshmen that are getting recruited at that age. Our guys have to develop here and get recruited when they're juniors and seniors. We don't have those underclass recruits very often. That's for sure.
It's really rare to walk into your freshman year with as a 4-star or a 5-star recruit.
It happens. It happens. The guys that are, there are other schools that are, blessed, I guess, if you will, to have those kinds of people walk through the door. Our players, again, they're tough, they're physical, they're smart, and they've got to work hard and be really committed. It's like a service academy around here a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to put in your time.
Absolutely. Coach, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. I'm Brian Jones. He's Coach Darrin Fisher. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode of Sideline Shenanigans, we want to take a minute to talk about something bigger ther than football. Bigger than the rivalries, stats, or Friday Night Lights. We want to talk about our heroes, our wounded warriors, the incredible organization that stands beside them every step of the way, the Wounded Warrior Project. Here on Sideline Shenanigans, we love the game. We love the grit, the heart, the toughness it takes to step out on to that field. But there's another kind of toughness that deserves our full respect. What it takes to serve in uniform, to go to war, and to come back with wounds both seen and unseen. The Wounded Warrior Project exists for those men and women that they're there when the cheering stops and the real fighting begins, helping veterans who are battling injuries, PTSD, and the transition back into civilian life. They offer mental health support, job training, physical rehab, peer groups, and more. They help warriors get back onto their feet and remind them they're never walking alone. We talk a lot about teams on the show, and this is the one we all need to be a part of. So here's my challenge to the Sideline Shenanigans family. If you're listening, if you've ever been moved by a story of courage or sacrifice, now's the time to act. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org. Learn, donate, share every bit it helps. Because the men and women who wore their uniform, they played the hardest game of all, and they did it for us. Let's have their backs, just like they had ours. And before we wrap this up, let me leave you with the verse that reminds us of strength found in service. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. John 15:13. Now let's get back to the shenanigans.